Welcome to tonight's glorious Smite League, everybody. I'm King Scuba. I've infiltrated here from the official Discord, and I'm here to present you something fun and interesting. We've got the So You Think You Can Cast competition. For those of you who aren't aware, this is an old high-res event. Basically, it was an official event where the winners were all amateur contestants just like here, except they got a special prize at the end where they actually got to cast at Worlds. I don't get to offer anything quite as interesting as that, unfortunately. I certainly tried, though, but I got shut down. But the winners for this competition will actually take home $200 each for each chair one and two. And not to mention, I'm also going to have a little special prize for them at the end. For you viewers, what we have tonight for you is two sets of chairs. First up is Sir Ionicus and Zats. And in game two, we have our relative newcomer to the scene. Um I'm brain farting. Sorry, everybody.
Hi, I'm Captain Jack.
Captain Jack and Kaizo, that's what it is.
No worries, no worries.
There's a whoopsie from me. But before we begin, for the viewers at home, I've got a special little thing for you. At the end of these games, there's going to be a little survey for you. Basically, just rate the casters. Tell us what you think about them. And you could walk home with a fun little code from me for a couple little events that you can just plug into Smite. And at the very end of this competition, I'm also going to draw one person to win $50. Just one random person.
Ooh.
So, with all that being said, I got a couple questions for our chairs tonight. And if you're not exactly sure what chairs are for the casters, chair one, that's the hype man. He's there to generate excitement, do the play by plays, all that fun stuff, keep you engaged. Chair two, on the other hand, is going to fill your downtime. He's going to be the person who bounces off chair one, gives you a lot of detailed analysis, smite meta theory, and everything to make you think about things. So let's start off tonight with Surionicus. How long have you casted for?
I know that I ended up starting casting, I think, for Quack and Smite League. It wasn't very long, but it was season what was it, 4? Season 4. So I casted in season 4 of QSL, but for about half the season, so a little new to the casting scene, but I mean, I'm enjoying it, so I decided to push a little bit more for it.
So you started in season 4 and you've been going all the way through, or you dropped it and you're back?
So I started in season 4, and then High Res made the ruling where players couldn't cast as well, so I dropped it. So it's been a little while since I casted, but I've been looking for little avenues to get back into it. So
I thought that was season 6 that happened, not 4.
season 4 for QS, it might have been season.
Oh,
Was that everyone?
you're
Was
talking
that
season
everyone?
4 for the league, not Smite. Gotcha. I got
Yeah, I might have been season 5 actually. I could be wrong. Yeah, season 5. There we go. I have a memory. That's right.
it was only a year ago.
Yeah, season 5 of QSL, so that was last oh my goodness gravy, that was the spring, that was in the spring this year.
Yeah, so for those of you who aren't aware of what's going on with that exactly, basically it came down from high res because casters get a gem stipend whenever they cast for these leagues. Um, However, it runs in counter conflict with playing in the league. You can't be in that league and casting for them, and also play as a participant and get the gem stipend as a caster. Kind of shot everything in the foot. Fun back end stuff, drama for you guys. Let's move on to chair two tonight in game two because each caster set's only going to cast for a single game. So, how about you, Kaizo? How long have you been in the casting scene for?
Well, by God, Scuba, it has been a minute. I think that I started out. Let's see. The first time I casted was for the Obey Community League. If you remember back to when that was around, that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. Underneath the whole scandal that went down with that, there was a whole lot of drama, just like you were just talking about. But fortunately, managed to keep my head out of that and just enjoyed the casting and stuck around. I got the privilege of working with people like Frog and J-Mac and Fuzzy Wuzzy, who were great mentors to me and really set me on the path to stick with it. I mean, I also went through some downtime myself, as I think everybody does with a hobby this involved like this. But I'm ready to get back into it and ready to get my feet wet again.
Hell yeah. And Captain Jack, you're new to Smite, from my understanding, but you've been in
Uh,
the Overwatch casting scene a while, right?
Absolutely. I got my start about 4.5 years ago, casting Overwatch. My some of my recent events, if you pay attention to that scene, I casted for the Electric Game Federation's high school league as they did their national championships down in Walt Disney World. As well as all being all over kind of the tier 4 community, kind of those various community tournaments. I'm helping out here, there, and everywhere with stuff like that. But I got to a point that as I've been kind of spreading my wings, there's definitely other games to be casted out there. My wife's a big fan of Smite, has been playing it for just about as long as we've been together, over 5 years now. And I know a bit about the game, definitely not nearly as knowledgeable as some of these folks in the lobby today, but I'm going to give it my best and hopefully you enjoy the show.
Right on. Old hat. I guess you don't get stage fright at all with that knowledge.
I am a performer. I have been a performer
You
for
hide it well.
many years, and when the pandemic hit, especially, my hobby ended up turning much more into a job opportunity. So, being able to kind of redirect my life and really get that performance ability kind of out in front of everyone, even if I'm just doing it from the comfort of my own home. It's just a fun, exciting thing to do, whether hobby or getting paid for.
Right on. So you kind of hinted at it with your wife there. How long have you guys been playing Smite then? Curious.
Um, I've been playing as long as we've been together on and off. It definitely was not my uh not necessarily my cup of tea game style wise. For to show how bad I am at the game, I kind of insta lock Apollo a lot just because I like flying around in the sky and shooting people. So if that gives you any idea of how disconnected I am when I'm playing this game, but she is a multi-starred Neath player, very intelligent, very good at the video game, and I love watching her play. When she gets a roll in, there is just nothing that can stop her.
Fun stuff. Kaizo, how about you? How long you been playing Smite, man?
Well, I had the unfortunate instance of discovering Smite the day after Christmas. I was a Christmas noob, as we called them back in the Call of Duty days. I want to say 2015, 2014, somewhere in there, right around season 2. I remember the first god that got released when I was playing and really starting to get into the game was Jing 10. And I was so excited to play Jing 10 after I got home from school every single day. I thought that he was the most broken god in the whole game, which to be fair, he was at the time. But I was just loving it, and it's been a love-hate relationship with me with Smite, as I think it is with all of our most experienced players. I've dipped my toes into the competitive scene and gotten my foot bitten off in doing so. So this is my best way to get into some of those more competitive games. Since I can't play in them, I might as well find another way to involve myself and help out where I can in the amateur circuit.
Right on. I do miss the days when the dishwasher was a little broken. And let's move on to you, Sir. How long have you been playing Smite for?
Oh my goodness. I remember first, like, I was on PlayStation, right? Like, I didn't even have a computer anymore. And I remember finding Smite, finding it interesting, free to play MOBA because I couldn't play League at the time. I got into Smite though, League not so much. Back when Achilles was released, so that's like what, season 5, started season 5. And
Something
then,
around there.
yeah, and then I was playing Dead by Daylight for a while and then got out of that and got into Smite big time, like all the time when Hera got released later on that season. So end of season 5 was probably when I started.
Y'all a bunch of newbies to this game.
Just a little bit.
So, got a final question for you guys.
Hmm.
So, Captain Jack, what drew you to chair 1 specifically instead of chair 2?
I mean, I've always been the hype man in just about every inch of my life. You know, I'm always there to try to support people and hype them up. And so for me, getting into the action, really calling out everything that's happening, and most importantly, being able to push forward those underdogs that don't necessarily might be looked down upon by many, but I know that if they get their act together, they're able to kick some butt and really show what the game is all about. That's really what makes me love the play-by-play role so much.
Right on. Kaizo, you kind of shift between both if I remember correctly. Do you have a preference or what do you say?
Uh, I like talking. In case you haven't found out from just talking to me, I like to hear my. Well, I don't like the sound of my voice, but I like the words that come out of my face. So I tend to prefer chair two, just because you get a lot of time where the chair one doesn't get to shut you up because there isn't a whole lot going on else to talk about. So that's definitely something that I enjoy. But I mean, chair one is also like you said, I'm back and forth. Share one's fun because you get to do all the hype casting and all of the clips that people are taking. That's all going to be the chair one because that's when all the exciting things are happening. But there is a backbone to every cast, and that is the chair two. And I strive to be that
Hmm.
every time I hook up to the mic.
Right on. And finally, before we move on to the game, how about you? How about you, Ionicus? What makes you want to play chair 1 over chair 2?
So I originally, actually, funny story, signed up for chair 2 because I really like the analysis, but got to the point where I'm just like hyping, wanting to let my excitement out. So I decided, it's probably better that I just chair 1 instead of trying to talk over them. So I decided that to get my excitement out, I wanted to play chair 1 because play chair 1? Uh, to let my excitement out because I love seeing these players play and just being able to hype them up. Um, then I talk fast, so I figured that also helps.
Right
Honestly,
on.
we play our own version of the game outside of the game, so I feel you there.
Awesome. So, we're about to turn it over to Sir Ion and Zats for this first game. But stick around after this set. We got a little bit of a coaching session for the casters here. Give you a little bit of insight onto some tips and tricks if you might want to get into this. And with that said, let's start the game. On the table here, we got Sorionicus and Zats.
Alrighty. Yeah, so tonight, we've got the Kinkais versus the Benadryl Babylonians tonight. From what I've heard, this is gonna be the third matchup. Kinkais going to Benadryl, Babylonians. Kinkais have had the favor the first two games, but apparently Benadryl Babylonians are coming up. So, how you looking at this game today, Zats, knowing with the information we have?
You honestly, you probably know more about these two teams than I do, but yeah, I'm just looking forward to a good game. Really, I know the previous of these two teams. We obviously hope to have a close set. That's what we really want, and it's really great for you guys as well to have some fun stuff to cast. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, as am I. And from what else I know, I believe the Kinkais have a player making their debut today, so that should be interesting to see as well. That the Benadryl Babylonians. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna cut it down to Babylonians because that
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
long
we'll,
name
we'll
to
do that.
say.
We'll do that. That'll be fun.
Um, are gonna be playing a little bit, not to their strength. Seems like a couple of their players weren't able to make it today from their main roster. So, um, yeah, but the team has been making the up and up, so it's gonna be nice to see these two teams go at it today, and maybe even the Babylonians come back and take a set off them.
Yeah,
Kinkai's.
and it wouldn't surprise me honestly. There's a couple of players that I know. I may have even played with a couple, but I'm expecting a fairly even game. To be honest, I don't think I could favour one or the other just on paper.
Yeah, and as we go into picks and bans here, we have a Kepri and a Kali from Kinkai. So the bans are going quick. Ravana and Nemesis on the other side. All good bans, just strong jungle picks. I know Ravana specifically a solo lane pick. So, I mean, good bans all across the board. And
Yeah, everything you'd expect to see so far. I know lots of people are valuing Kepri just so strong in kind of denying these kind of late game hyper carries because you just pop that Kepri ult and you can't do anything as if you're a Kali or a Bakasura that might be diving the backline. So really powerful ban there. Yeah, everything is standard so far.
mhm. Yes. Not to mention, if I remember correctly, Ravana's build right now makes him so incredibly tanky. So, like, imagine you just burned all your abilities to kill this Ravana, and then Kepri reses him.
Yeah.
Just the frustration of you just killed him, and he's there again. Freya also getting banned out, not surprising at all. And Mercury first pick, definitely going. How do you feel about that one? Just top of the table.
Well, again, you look at the bans that we've already got, a lot of late game hyper carries. I will say that Mercury, while he does fall into that category, does definitely struggles a little bit more in that early game. But now you're getting Golden Blade online quite early. That kind of helps get your farm online, which I think Mercury can struggle with a bit compared to these other junglers. But it's a solid first pick. I think there's no doubting that Mercury can win the game on his own if he's allowed to hit that late game with a big crit build.
Yeah, so going on the other side, it's looking like they're going to have to find something to maybe shut down this Mercury early. Just make sure he can't get to that late game, because as you said, if he does, he is probably one of the last late game hyper carries that's performing pretty well. That's on the board right now. Baba Yaga being hovered though, she's, from what I've seen in comp smite, being prioritized a lot over a lot of other mages. Specifically, I'm thinking because stacking. Maybe you know a little bit more than I do on that one, but Jingwei as well. How do you feel about these two? Oh, Baron?
I hope so. I hope this is a Baron lock. I definitely prefer that. I think you can wait on the Baba Yaga. I don't think she's worth picking particularly this high up. Whereas the Baron not only is a generally strong pick, he's a strong pick in many roles. I think support is great. I'll stop talking about Baron though, because they've changed their minds again and locked in the Baba Yaga.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, as I do agree that Baron Samedi is a very, very strong character. I mean, that just has a percent heal, so it doesn't matter how much tank you build, how much damage you build. It's just, oh, hi, here's a percent of your health back. So definitely agree that Baron probably would be a bit stronger. Baba Yaga, I don't see too much wrong with Baba Yaga, but I do believe you're correct that he could have waited a little bit. The Home Sweet Home just being a really good CC immunity ability, though, in my mind. So,
Yeah.
Chernobog. I was like, I was about to say, they say Chernobog on the other side, and
They keep swapping, man.
They're like, I can't make up our minds. Okay, so they do Kakolin and Chernobog. How do you feel for the Babylonians backline now that you got a Kakolin Mercury on you at this point?
I mean, that's pretty scary in itself. You're going to have a Chernobog potentially ulting you as well and slowing you for a very long time. I mean, you'd have to be worried, but to be fair, Jingwei, one of the safest characters in the game, doesn't fall behind very easily either. So, Baba, not quite as safe. I think that if that jump can be exploited by interrupting it early, then Baba can really suffer. But again, that's why we see these kind of stacking builds anyway, to give you a bit more sort of safety, I suppose. Yeah, they've. You're right. It's quite a dive heavy comp so far, and it's gonna all have to be on this Baba Yaga.
Yeah, if this Baba Yaga can, avoid getting absolutely destroyed by this Mercury Kakolin, then her damage output should help the rest of the team get through these team fights, especially since the other side is just a team fight focused team as well. So if they can get through the team fights, I think they win I could be wrong. It depends on execution, but just based off the draft so far, I'm starting to favor the Babylonians a little bit, just because though you have a scary dive, you've also got a really scary team fight. But as we go into the next ban phase, we get Bastet, Yu Huang, and Geb so far. Yeah, I mean, Yu Huang's pretty safe, I guess.
Yeah, I do find I suspect they're banning it because they've picked this Cthulhu here, and at the moment I don't really know who Cthulhu's diving. Now, obviously, Kin Kai's are yet to pick up their mid laner, unless of course the Chernobog goes mid. But Chernobog can be tricky to dive. And, you know, you can't really run someone down like Chernobog. You've got Cthulhu. So, Yu Huang also, I think, does quite well. You can just sit in the air for such a long time, it feels like. And it can negate quite a lot of that Cthulhu ult. So, you know, generally a strong mage to get rid of anyway.
Yeah, I mean, especially like you trade a mobility for you're just up in the air for like 3 seconds. And I that is definitely something I would want to get rid of as a Cthulhu player. Just being able to avoid that damage. And Ganesh, the team fight's just getting stronger for these Babylonians. I think they came into this draft with the plan, and it's starting to come together here.
Yeah, really like it. Ganesh does a bit of everything. I think really strong in support. Will help this Baba Yaga with the peel. You know, we'll do really well into this dive. I mean, can't do a lot into Mercury. You know, Mercury's still going to be whacking away at you whether you silence him or not. But for everyone else, Ganesh is kind of a one-size-fits-all kind of character. I'm never unhappy to see this character, unless I'm playing against it, in which case I'm seething with rage.
It's definitely a frustrating character. I mean, as a solo lane player who plays King Arthur, Ganesh is not friendly. But looking like they're going a little bit heavier in the dive. Looks like an E-set. If it's not support, I'm gonna eat my words. But E-set support and Morrigan mid. This dive comp really coming together for the Kinkais as well. So we'll see how they can do into this team fight juggernaut I'm seeing out of the Babylonians right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think they've got so much that it will be difficult to just deal with that, especially if they get a lead early. And I think that's going to be key. We're looking around these early Gold Furies. Obviously, that's always the thing with ESET. They have a lot of auto attackers as well. Mercury will help with those early objectives. So I'd be keeping an eye on that. It's not as easy to burn Gold Fury anymore, but you know, Kinkai's definitely will be able to do it if given the opportunity. I also really like the Morrigan here. There's some really great transformations. The Cthulhu alone in the late game could be great. Mercury late on could be great as well. Lots of good options. I really like it.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Morrigan. Like, imagine Cthulhu. Hi, we've drafted this reverse Uno card in a team fight as you're starting to go in there, maybe doing the counter dive, and instead they're diving you with your own tool that you tried bringing into this fight. But yeah, definitely looking forward to what they're going to do around the Gold Fury, because as you said, again, their objective shred is great. The Babylonians have a good chance of stealing them and contesting them, but if they don't have vision, that Gold Fury gone, Pyromancer gone, FG, if they're not careful, could be just gone in an instant. As we're going into this game, it's going to be interesting to see how these two teams play around those objectives.
Yeah, and I as I kind of mentioned, I'd be really worried about the snowball, because the issue for the Babylonians here is their early fights are pretty damn poor. I think Jingwei needs to get some items online, needs to get some crit and lifesteal online. Baba Yaga, the same kind of issue, needs to get those stacking items online if they're going to go stacking. You know, Ganesh is okay. It's all going to be on this Ratatoska. I think Alyssa's in the jungle today. It's all down to this Ratatoska. Where can we see this pressure applied? Can they put pressure onto the Mercury, onto the Chernobog? That's where I'd be looking.
Yes, I agree. Like Jingwei, as you said, needs items, needs her, what is it? Her second ability leveled decent bit to get that crit. Baba Yaga again needs items, needs some stacks them quicker than any other god, so that at least helps. And then yeah, it's gonna be up to the Ratatasker to put pressure on these carries that in the late game are going to be peppering the entirety of the Babylonians, whether they're grouped up or not. So
Yeah, and it's going to be really, really difficult. But if they can get through the early game, the Babylonians, I don't want to say confident with the sheer amount of aggression that the King Kais have, but I believe they have enough tools to get around it. The Cthulhu is the one that's got alarm bells for me. I'm not quite convinced about how it works into the King Kai's comp, because I think it just gets shredded.
yeah, unfortunately, with the nerfs, Cthulhu recently was a couple patches ago, where his max health in his ult got reduced. It makes it so much easier to die as a Cthulhu nowadays, and it was already kind of easy with the giant
Yeah.
hitbox. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how they use this Cthulhu in the team fights. But I mean, if the Cthulhu can get his ultimate off and be able to help his team enough before he does die, that's pretty huge for the Babylonians here. Um, running this game doesn't look like anything strange across the board. Rat deciding to, instead of upgrade his Acorn, going T1. Assume Transcendence.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. I obviously there are plenty of arguments to be made to be rushing the Acorn as soon as you can. It's possible that Alyssa will just choose to hold onto that tier 1 and upgrade the Acorn anyway, which I don't mind doing. Other than that, everything looks pretty standard. Starts look pretty standard as well. Slight mix up in the mid lane though. We've got the Babylonians going speed to red, and the King Kais going red to speed. So a slight difference in starts there.
Yeah, I'm imagining it's because since it is a rat, he's going to want to get active earlier. And Mercury, not an early game character, is trying just to get his farm online. So that's what I'm going to assume is going through their heads. Pretty good start. Cthulhu doing Guardian things in solo. I was like thinking, it's like, how's Cthulhu clears going to work early? He outcleared Cucullin, so I mean, he did something right.
Yeah, that conduit gem is going to be really useful for that. We're seeing it a lot on Guardian Sports at the moment as well. Yeah, look at that conduit gem pressure. It kind of it's gotten quite a few buffs recently with the amount of extra damage it's doing now. It's really quite powerful and potent on these Guardians that already have quite high base numbers to begin with. But don't scale so well. So I think that's why I was seeing it, and it's no surprise really. But as time goes on, this Cullen may get a little bit of pressure back.
Yeah, I'm imagining once he gets his Glad Shield online, probably second, third item, he's going to get his pressure back because Guardians will have that damage and clear early just because Conduit Gem with the ability to better PvE makes wave clear a lot easier and all that jazz. As we're seeing in both lanes, just everything. Oh, dual lane looks like the Kinkai? No, that's the Babylonians. Got to get my numbers straight. Are ganking the Kinkais, and we're gonna get a kill over here. Eset dead. Chernobog just barely gonna get away, having leveled his 3. Good gank on this rat, getting early straight off the bat.
And this is exactly what we were saying on the desk, wasn't it? We need to see Alyssa on this Ratatoska exerting pressure across the map and already getting an early kill onto the Eset. I think that's the perfect target to go on. It's a good start.
A very, very good start. As you're right, Eset's probably the better target. One, immobile, so Chernobog's probably gonna get out anyway. But on top of that, the more you shut down Eset is a mage, so her base stats are not going to be as great as a Guardian early on, which makes her that much squishier going into these 2v2s or 3v3s in mid later on if she doesn't get her items online.
Yeah, and Eset definitely an early game character, especially when you play her in the support role. I'd say I do think she has plenty of utility in the late game, but if you fall behind, that ult is going to be doing next to nothing. But we're seeing some good aggression here from the King Kais.
Yeah, just a little bit of poke here and there, maybe trying to get back a little bit more of the pressure that they had before. Eset missing the stun, unfortunately, going to make this engagement a little bit more not successful.
Some good poke though, and this is just, Chernobog and Jingwei, neither particularly enjoy the early game, you'd have to say. This looks like a solo kill. Wow.
I wasn't even paying attention to the health bars for a second. Cucullin getting absolutely destroyed by, I'm assuming it's just Cthulhu hit level 5. No, Cthulhu didn't hit level 5 first. They were both level 5. But, I mean, that's Cthulhu. I mean, back before Cthulhu was nerfed, he was soloing Bologna, so I'm not surprised that he's doing well as
Uh-oh.
Mercury looking to get active, looking to gank this. Mercury all going in on the Jingwei. Beats have been grabbed, and are they going to get the kill? No, barely drop it. But Rat coming back on the re-engage, looking to get some peel out. Unfortunately, not on the same page as his dual lane. The support just being a little bit too far away to give him any sort of support. As Baba Yaga looking to get active in the mid lane. These Babylonians came here to play today. And that's what? Almost the solo in solo lane. Oh, Chernobog ulting in on Baba Yaga. Okay.
Blimey.
Lots of action already. It's not even been 5 minutes, and these teams are already ready and gunning for it.
I mean, it was a really good gank, I thought, from the Mercury. On point, timed it really well. The beads were good as well, you have to say, from Marsh. And then the counter gank is just incredible from this Ratatosk. I'll say it again. This is what you need to do. You need to apply pressure in the early game because Rat will fall off. Mercury will outscale this Ratatoska. So it's important to keep applying pressure, keep getting these kills onto the board. And so far, it's working pretty well.
Yeah, it's working very, very well for them. 2 kills on the board for the Babylonians and about almost a 15, what is that, 15? Yeah, that's almost 1,500 gold lead in favor of the Babylonians. Not that much in the grand scheme of things, but if these Kinkais are not careful, that can balloon to like a 3K, 4K gold lead just off of farming and these early kills.
Yeah, and again, it shows that you don't have to get pressure. You know, just forcing out that Morrigan gave you just that little bit of pressure in the mid lane as well, gets you a bit more farm.
Very much so. As we're going into mid lane, Isa looking
Beats.
to go for a kill. Beats? Yeah, beats on Baba Yaga as just for free, but Isa in a little bit of trouble here. Mercury ult comes in, Isa ult down. Ratataska's in a little bit of danger as the Ganesh ult comes out. Baba Yaga ult out of the Morrigan to try and confirm that kill. And unfortunately, nothing comes of it, but Morrigan still in a little bit of danger. Gets grabbed.
Beat.
Gets her beat, so beads for beads, and Mercury's in a little bit of danger, but I don't think it's going to amount to much as Babylonians are safe to just back off a little bit after that engagement.
So much fighting. It's not something we've seen since I think it's been a couple of patches now, but you know, with those health adjustments, we're not seeing so much fighting. We're seeing more farm-oriented gameplay, but this is kind of the opposite. Both teams very happy to just brawl it out. Again, you would traditionally favour a Ratatoska, you know, certainly in that jungle 1v1, but across the rest of the board, you know, you've got to favour the E-set. Although Baba Yaga, I must say, has been exerting a surprising amount of pressure onto this Morrigan. The Babas look really strong so far.
Yeah, I mean, she's got insane scaling, yeah, so she's definitely a late game powerhouse, but you can't ignore the base damage as they've been buffing her base damage steadily over the time, and probably the reason why she's pretty good is Isa coming over to gank Jingwei. Gets a Jingwei ult, but I mean, nothing else. But I mean, that's a good cooldown. Mercury, as soon as his ult comes back up, can easily just go in, alter. Gonna look down as her beads up. Her beads have come back up since that early gank. But yeah, I mean, that's one less safety tool Jingwei has to get away from Mercury. So
that's true. I do think anytime you feel you have to gank a Jingwei or you're struggling a bit, as I don't think there should be any kills here, but I think Alfie will be happier with that trade.
Oh, 100%. I would be happy with that trade. You get Cthulhu ult and force him out of lane. That's free farm, man. But the TP will make that a little bit harder to punish, but
that's fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at the Mercury. I heard the Mercury. I was like, wait, is he going in or is he just hitting the button? But yeah, going in this, Baba Yaga's got her.
It's beautiful.
But yeah, Mercury ult going in forces the Baba Yaga ult, maybe just to see if she can counter aggress the pressure, but no other ults really forced. No Ganesh ult, no anything else. Just Merc ult for Baba ult. She didn't have beads, so that was a good gank, but unfortunately her beads are coming up now, so gonna have to keep that in mind going to these next fights.
And I quite like how Mercury's playing this early game. You feel like they're not actually missing out on a lot of farm, and he's kind of just happy to throw the ults out there, just apply a bit of pressure, maybe get some relics. But as we see, are all rat dive,
Whoa.
and it's a dead Morrigan.
I didn't even. I've got to be more awake for this, man. That's like the second time I haven't seen someone about to go in. Great ultimate from the rat there, just to get this punish this Morrigan for staying a little bit longer than she might comfortably want to, and getting out. That's perfect. That's 3 kills on the board now for the Babylonians, and this rat is only going to get stronger and stronger as the game goes on.
Yep, but you just feel it's a bit of a time bomb. I mentioned this Mercury's farming up very well. Ratoska is keeping up, which is an odd thing to say. To think Rat having to keep up, but of course Alyssa is applying more pressure in other lanes and getting the team ahead rather than the individual farm, which makes a lot of sense. That's kind of the focal point of these first 10 minutes. It's all been on what these junglers have been willing to give up for the sake of the side lanes, really.
Yeah, that's definitely very, very true. Yeah, this rat being active, but Mercury on the other side trying to counter it a little bit. But yeah, I agree with you on the time bomb thing. Mercury a little bit more easily CCable than the other 80 characters. Maybe Nemesis being the exception here. But I mean, yeah, once he gets online, he's online, and they've got to CC him down, or he will just run rampant. As looks like Cthulhu ult was forced again, looking to put a little bit more pressure onto this Cucullin, but doesn't look like it's anything. It's just solo laners throwing punches at each other.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we saw another kill in solo. Hunter doesn't, to be fair, doesn't have a full defense item online yet. Alfie has, he's going to be pretty damn tanky. Mitigation's online already, and the Crotchy will be doing decent damage at this early stage. As we are going to see basically a 3v4 over these oracles.
Yes, Eset's a really, really far up with no one to cover for, but Mercury coming around, having that ultimate charged up, might get a hit on the Ratatasker. I think he was aiming for Baba, but the Ratatasker ended up being the hit. But Ratatasker ulting in, gets barely misses the knockup on it, gets his beads taken out. Morgan ulting into the Cthulhu, but on the backside, Eset does get caught out by the Jingwei rotation. But great kill from the mid laner onto that Jingwei. So
yeah, very narrow margins. That Merc dash perfectly timed, and I noticed that East on this Eset, just when you thought they were out, just turned around to throw out that Spirit Ball, and that second of turning around allowed Marsh to weave in an auto and pick up the kill. But that's a kill onto the board for the Kinkais, but only just because Marsh dove just that little bit far to get a kill on the support. So overall, not too bad really. I think that's a 1-for-1 in the end. So the Kinkais will definitely be happy with that trade.
1-for-1, and you traded your support for the enemy's ADC. I'm winning. I count that as a win for Kinkai.
That's true. Yeah.
As Eset just looking to harass them over here. But nothing interesting. No fights coming off of that. No jungler around.
We did just see a bead from. That was probably a fat finger. And it's harsh to point that out, but I'm not sure they'll know about it. So I'm sure that won't come into play for Taken in the mid lane.
Surely not. Surely not. Like Mercury's gonna ult down, looking to get the beads, and then realizes she's not beadsing.
Yeah, I wonder if they noticed. I'm not sure. Maybe East on this East may have seen it, but either way, we'll see if any pressure is applied on Taken within the next 130 seconds or so. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he said didn't know, I'm as Mercury, that's my target. But
absolutely.
As you said, we'll see. Ratatasker looking to maybe punish this Chernobog, or maybe get some gold pressure over here.
It's all about.
That's Chernobog dash. If Rat ulted there, maybe they could go for it. Rat is ulting in a little. Oh no, never mind. I saw the back animation and thought it was branches of Yggdrasil. Sorry for my butchering of that. Yeah,
I get it. It definitely looks like you're channeling that ult. Yeah,
100%, man. I'm sorry, but the Kinkais are starting to pressure around this Gold Fury. Maybe looking to get a pick to started off a little early. His Gold Fury is a lot stronger than he used to be, but still possible with
Pull a
the King
dash.
Price up
Oh,
as they force the ultimate. And I mean, to me, that's a go button for Gold Fury if we
absolutely.
had more people. If not a go button, it's a we go in on this Baba Yaga as she's got not much. As he's just a little bit far up. Rat Tasker here might be able to help punish this as Mercury is also charging the ultimate to come behind. Hits 2 with it. Isettle managing to keep this Iset in the fight. And Ganesh ult, Chernobog, the whole team's here to play. Cthulhu out of the Morrigan, looking to get this Baba Yaga. One up for the Kinkais. And I think they're going to be safe for that, but Rat coming around the back might. Okay, I was a little scared for that Rat. A little low on the health bar, and the whole team of Kinkais was coming around the corner there. Oh, goodness. They're looking to push that fight into a Gold Fury here. Is Asha hiding behind the
Seems
Kinkais?
risky.
Yeah, it's very, very risky. As
I don't
I don't
know.
think the Kinkais know. He's looking for the steal, but
Oh,
Kinkai's got better secure.
yeah.
And
That's always a long shot for freeze on the Ganesh, but just a little bit late. They burnt that at the correct rate, I suppose you'd say, Kinkai's. So there was no chance for steal. Still aggression onto East though.
yeah, she's an immobile mage. I would aggress, but unfortunately, she's just too tanky. Because mobile mage or not, that is still the support player.
Yeah, already
And-
got Thebes and an early Spectral online, which I don't really get. I suppose I can't tell what acorn that is. That might be the crit acorn, but even then, you know, I suppose you've got a Jingwei online as well. So I don't hate it, and you're going to need it at some point, but it does feel a little bit early. I wonder if you could have had a breastplate of valor in there if you were building into that tree. I think early cooldown would be a little bit better on the E set personally, but you're going to get value out of it eventually.
I mean, Spirit Robe's also a good alternative, but the thing is, he said getting poked, but the thing is with Jing Wei, right? I think she's like one of like very few characters who has innate crit in her kit, and it's her most powerful ability in her too. So I feel like this Iset's just trying to get in these team fights a little bit early, as Rat's trying to aggress on this Mercury, and Mercury's got crit, Rat. You need to be careful here. He does beads the Spirit
Oh
Ball.
no!
Mercury misses the ult, goes up in the air for Rat, but
Oh no!
does in fact get out, as the Babylonians might be looking to re-engage. No, they're looking to just disengage with like a Cthulhu ult, but that's 2 ultimates out. That's 3 ultimates out, as Baba did in fact ult. I was like, did I check that correctly? No, 3, 4. Okay, I can count, guys. I promise. As the Kinkais are going to take that win on ultimates and just take this Pyromancer.
And that was a hang on. We got a Morgan transformation, probably
Yeah,
just to defend against the split push. But Marsh is taking this fight.
Marsh is taking this fight and losing this fight,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay.
As you're not beating. Chernobog has like how many mitigations in his ultimate? You're not winning that trade if it ults in on you at that point. But I appreciate the effort.
And that's close. Marsh also dies with the Aegis. I think even if you use the Aegis, you still die eventually. That's just good recognition from Rosie. Whether it was recognised also that Marsh had just used abilities to clear the wave, and that kind of meant Marsh was always going to lose that 1v1. I do want to go back to that massive fight. It was just a little bit off around that fire giant. Alyssa manages to bait like 3 ults and still manages to get into the sky, and it's just you feel like they were just a bit out of sync with each other on the side of the Kinkais. If they'd just been a little bit more succinct with their timing on the CC, I think they might have gotten the kill much better. But narrow margins. And it is really close in the jungle at the moment. I think they're kind of matching each other in despite very different styles. It's really interesting to watch how they both kind of play around the map, and they kind of almost mirror each other in a way. It's really cool to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Mercury might be a late game hyper carry, but he also has that early CC, so he's probably pretty decent for matching this Rat. But in my mind, matching the Rat or no, you're gonna outdo him in the late game no matter what. He's got CC. He doesn't have much else. As Marshall's looking to take a 1v1 with Plush Rush over here, like 60% HP, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fight you. Let's go."
Yeah, and I suppose the only difference there is I think Marsh has a bit more attack speed. Also has the Silver Branch online, whereas Plush Rush has the kin size, which of course you'll play on the kin size. You have to build the kin size,
100%.
but that will probably be a bit more beneficial than the percent pen at the moment. Also, the fact that Plush Rush has a level lead, but
We don't talk about
probably unlikely to see any kills anytime soon in that lane.
Yes, they're just looking to farm. Yeah, I mean, the Jingwei going Silver Branch, I feel like is a little bit better for her, but in the Chernobog going kin size is better for him, as that's a Cthulhu on the board. Doesn't matter how many prots you have, that man still has like a bajillion health despite the nerfs. So good itemization, I think, on the Chernobog there is. I mean, he's also got a 2-level lead, so he's gonna hurt a lot more than this Jingwei in fights no matter what. As looks like the Babylonians are going over to the
Massive
left
group,
side of the map. I'm probably looking for this Gold Fury over here. Is Alyssa going on this E set, maybe trying to take advantage of the immobility, but unfortunately no follow-up, not enough damage to take out the tank. As
Wow.
Mr. What is that? Mercury. Trying to read his name. Mercury just gets a perfect 1v1 as Ganesh gets a good ult. Cullen gets an even better ult in there. And Freeze a little bit low. I don't think he's going to survive. Mercury picking up the kill as there's two Cthulhu ults. You've got both Morrigan and the actual Cthulhu fighting it out. Jingwei forced to ult out of this fight as the whole of the Kin Kais is still here and breathing and pushing a Trebuchet into the mid lane. Maybe even being able to get that T2 tower if the Babylonians aren't fast enough. Fortunately, yes. Got one last shot off. Holy heck. As it looks like they're going for this Gold Fury, as King Guys didn't lose enough HP for it.
I mean, it was they lost a lot of health, a little bit unlucky, but I think that all comes down to taking the Ratatoska out of the fight nice and early, and it was a inch perfect Mercurial. Most of them have been, to be fair, and even with the beads, Alyssa just gets burned. I think another level was gained, to be fair. So the 3-level deficit isn't quite reflective before the kill happened, but still, this is kind of what we alluded to. Alyssa putting pressure around the map and using that global presence that Ratatoska has to try and get the team ahead. But Mercury's just been kind of hyper farming while still influencing the map, to be fair, and is now close to critical mass with the Deathbringer, the Rage online. And that's kind of all you need, and you just showed it there. Alyssa got burned in just a couple of autos and an ult, so that was super important, and that set the tone for the entire rest of the fight.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, you're 2 levels. It's a Mercury with a lead. You're not winning that fight, especially if it catches you off guard. I do want to bring this up, right? I just saw Ganesha ult the green buff, so they're going into this fight. The Babylonians down an entire ultimate because you want a green buff. Alyssa instantly dying to the Mercury and Rosie, just immediately burning him as Cthulhu forced to help heal for this team as he is also getting burned. Chernobog ulting in on this fight. The Cthulhu barely getting out, and Ganesh now finally having ult does get the kill on the E set for himself, but Morrigan and Cthulhu in the back get the Baba Yaga. Unfortunately, not really worth that much. They're dead. Marsh getting a kill on Rosie, I'm assuming straight from base, but ulting out. Be a little bit careful there, Marsh. They might look to dive you, but gonna play it safe. Back off and try and disengage, as now there's a big, healthy Cthulhu boy on them.
I think it's really interesting. We mentioned about the kin size earlier, and I wonder. To be fair, Marsh has now finished the kin size, but these Morrigan transformations are really impactful, and it's just selling me more and more on this Morrigan pick. I mean, you look, Alyssa's getting killed off at the start of every fight. That's always going to set you behind a bit, and from then on, it seems like they're having real problems with killing Morrigan in the Cthulhu form, I should say. That's about calling targets. What you really want is you want the backline to be nice and grouped. You want them to stay as a unit if possible, and then they can just focus on hitting what's in front of them, mainly the Cthulhu or the Morrigan, I should say. And they do have the items online for it. Baba Yaga has some percent pen online. That's going to help, although it's not the highest power build. You have to say massive sonic boom.
Holy heck! I was like letting you speak because I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna be a fight. Nah, Mercury ulting in forces the home sweet home from Baba Yaga, and Morgan might look to get the kill back. Unfortunately, misses the second ability there. Kakulin might be here to clean it up. Nope, Cthulhu Morgan's gonna clean it up. Wait, was that? No, Baba Yaga Morgan. I'm mixing up all the names and everything here as these fights are going crazy. Mid laner down and Chernobog chasing down Alyssa. Unfortunately, Alyssa not being able to get in these fights. Marsh does get the turn back kill, but trades her life for it. And Kakulin's getting ready to transform. Decides not to. Fight over and done with. 3 for 2 for the in favor of the Kinkais.
Yes, in favor of the Kinkais, but you have to say Babylonians will take that. They get a shutdown onto the Mercury, which is absolutely huge. This is a bit optimistic, I think. I think Ganesh on his own could mess up these backliners, but Cthulhu needs to be careful here.
Yeah, very, very careful. Forces out the relic out of Cthulhu. It's definitely a very, very risky play. They got mannequins on Morgan. I'm assuming that's what they're going off of,
Look
or
at
like
damage.
Chernobog. But if this Ganesh gets a perfectly timed ult, that's
they're gonna pick it up.
Yeah, they're gonna pick it up. Why? Oh, can guys steal it though? I'm assuming I heard Chernobog's 2-1 combo go off, so I'm assuming that's what stole it. If not that, probably Barbed Spear out of Kakulin. I don't know. They just drop it and they're like, oh, they're picking it up. They're 2 tanks. We're just gonna do more damage.
It's the ultimate Bane switch almost, because that's I don't think that's a good FG pull. I don't think you ever get that. But I think what the Babylonians do wrong there is they take much too long, and this is what we see loads around these fire giants. You don't need to try and steal the objective. That's not the aim when you're doing these risky fire giants. The aim is actually to just get onto these squishy backliners who are taking 1 million damage from the fire giant. As we see Alyssa getting one shot. Wow.
Just by Alyssa. Literally just found in the middle of the jungle and just killed by Morgan and Issa. I mean, we just saw how much damage Morgan did.
Oh my god.
I can't speak for 5 seconds before something happens on the map, man. Sonic Boom taking out the mid laner Baba Yaga. I mean, this is the freest Gold Fury ever. The Ganesha may be looking to steal, but I feel like, this Ganesha ult? Nope, that's, bruh. I look away for like 5 seconds, like, oh, how's the Ganesh position? Gold Fury's dead.
Yeah, and this one is, I mean, it's really difficult to siege Phoenixes, so I'm not going to say this one's over yet. I think they will have a difficult time, especially with a Morrigan, to offensively siege these Phoenixes. But I don't know, they don't quite have a big enough lead for me to be fully comfortable with that. But once they clean up all these towers, the gold lead will get bigger and bigger. And I think that's what they need to use this FG for. Clean up the rest of the towers, get a big gold lead, spend it all. And then next FG is when you can start thinking about pushing for a Phoenix.
I mean, these fights are just going really poorly for Babylonians. None of them are like not grouping as like a core 5 quite yet. I mean, Alyssa was found at the enemy's purple buff almost, and then Baba Yaga just gets one tapped by Mercury. And I feel like the draft that they wanted to go for isn't working because they're not grouped anymore. Whereas the draft for the Kinkai is this high aggression, just ability to just kill you and your thing. Because I don't know if I don't think we touched on this back in P's and B's or early in the game, but Morgan's gonna go Hidden Blade.
Yep.
And that's basically Mercury going on you at that point. Like, you don't exist if you're a squishy into that. So this team from the Kinkais definitely using the aggression that they can do, cleaning up all the towers, and then I'm gonna assume just gonna set up for the next fire giant. I mean, if the Babylonians aren't careful, I think they just lose it. So
yeah, fair. I think they have pretty good defense around Phoenixes. I do. You made a really good point, actually. I when they have so much burst from the Kinkais, it's all well and good having these very safe backliners, or certainly in the case of the Jingwei. But even with all the amount of peel, there's not a lot you can do when you get burst down in 2 autos or a single Morrigan combination. Jingwei is kind of struggling to live, and it's unfair to single out Marsh because the Ratosker's getting burned, this Baba Yaga's getting burned. It's difficult to deal with, and I think that's a credit to they played the early game really, really well, is what I'm trying to say, and the fact is they've now got these super late game builds online. Morrigan's got an absolute ton of power and not much else, but that's fine when you're building, when you're just targeting squishies. Mercury has plenty of crit online, and actually has quite a lot of survivability after the fight. With this serrated edge, with this blood forge especially, you're going to be able to pick up 1 kill and then you're going to be able to keep going. So I'm really liking the itemization there. But yeah, it's got to be tough. They've got to try and get some wins where they can. Try and get some gold off the map. Try and clean up these towers just so they can finish up their builds.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at builds, I mean,
Whoa.
I saw Ganeshal. I was like, oh, Ganeshal. And then Mercury just decides, that's a Ganeshal? No, I'm just going to go through it. Marsh does get the kill on 2. The Babylonians turn this fight around, but Freeze does die to Rosie, who Chernobog ulted into this fight. Plush Rush also there. He's the Rat looking to ult in on one of these squishy targets.
Oh.
Goes for Rosie. I thought he was going for Plush Rush, but unfortunately doesn't. And though Ratatasker gets the kill, is not going to be able to get much else. He gets a kill on Morrigan, and then Cthulhu dies, and that's the fight. I mean, great way to deny them just immediately going to fire, but I mean, you lost 4 members for that. So
yeah, again, these big scrappy fights favor the Babylonians. Absolutely. I'm now they may be able to do this, and I think Alyssa's going to have to do an amazing job to try and stall this out for another few seconds. I don't think it's going to be possible, but these Phoenixes are pretty tanky. I think, it's going to be close, but Phoenix is going to fall, and that turns the whole game on its head.
As they're starting to re-aggress. Alyssa a little bit low on health, but unfortunately, that East doing an amazing job. East on his first game with the Kinkais, showing off a pretty good performance. Maybe a little out of position early game, but in these late game fights, that pre-shell to make sure Rat can't immediately go in. The freaking, I'm trying to think, the stun and the silence on Ratatasker to make sure when he wants to aggress, he can aggress. Great showing out of this East, I think, out of that Phoenix Siege.
Yeah. It was very calculated very, very well, down to the amount of HP that you needed to have spare to siege that. It was really nicely done. It kind of made that fight all right because that felt like a losing fight, even though they came out with the better numbers. It's a 3 for 4 in your favor essentially. You still felt like with the lead you had, you shouldn't be losing fights like that, or at least conceding so many kills. But to get a mid Phoenix and to break the base, which is so important in this meta, that makes it all worthwhile, I think. So really great recognition from the Kinkais to know that we can still get something from this.
Yeah, that middle Phoenix definitely something to worry about. As we go into this fight, Rosie instantly stuns the Rat into a sonic boom. Amazing combo out of the Mercury and Morrigan combo. They're down 5 to a 5v4 for the Babylonians here, as the Kinkais are going to pull this Fire Giant. Not able to really do much about it, Babylonians are, as Cthulhu's going to try and go in, try and steal it, but too late. There was an Eset ult, as your backline is now getting attacked by this Morrigan and Cucullin, and that's a Cthulhu out of Rosie going into this fight. This enemy Cthulhu on Babylonian side, unable to push as this, 100%. They got EFG game.
No,
Cthulhu,
don't chase it.
I mean, it's Rosie, so I mean, if Rosie can stop this Ganesh from backing, that's one less ultimate. Because I've been noticing this Ganesh's ult is on a very, very, very short cooldown, having 20% CDR and already short cooldown, but it's looking like just Marsh to defend the Titan here, as like his Aegis, and he's not going to be able to do much here. He dies to Plush Rush. in the Titan room. Alyssa does come up, maybe can do something, but gets spirit balled out, forced to use beads. And unfortunately, I think this is just game for the not Benadryl. Kin Kai's here winning the game. Very, very
That
strong
was,
performance in my mind.
yeah, that was really, really clean. And we just saw the draft working really, really well in the late game. Once they got there, it was almost unstoppable. Every single fight, Alyssa just gets caught out, and it doesn't take much. It's really difficult to figure out where Mercury's going to ult from. Of course it is. Plus, when you've got a Morrigan added into the mix, you have to be so precise with your positioning and with your warding as well. That's something that they maybe could have adjusted as well. But I think, if you're Alyssa, you need to you just need to get a bubble online. You need to get a Mago's cloak online just to stop you getting one shot. Because when you've got Mercury and Morrigan running at you, it doesn't matter how fast you can react. If those beads aren't instantaneous, you're just going to die because the burst is just too much. So I think some adjustment to be made for the Babylonians. There were some good points. I think Marsh had a decent game on what is a very strong pick. I think Taken looked good in the early game and kind of fell off when you compare it to what Rosie was able to do on this Morrigan. But there are plenty of positives here. I think if they make a few adjustments in the draft, maybe look at taking away this Mercury or something like that, they have a really good chance, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The Baba Yaga, she was doing well early, but once the Mercury's online, you've got Polly online for the Morrigan. There's not much you can do when you're just dead at that point. Home Sweet Home, not a mobility ability. It's just a CC immunity that gets you going. But that was game one between the Kin Kais and the Benadryl Babylonians. So going to go to quick break, and then we'll see you guys for game two as we'll see how these two teams mix up their strategies going into game two.
Something different about the way you look at me when you say something simple as my name, like it's running through my veins. I go miles away, weaving in and out of worlds that you and I create. I know when the world turns black, we'll be dancing in the
And welcome back, everyone, to Galera Smite League, where we are here with the King Kais versus the Benadryl Babylonians in our second game of this best of three matchup. I'm Captain Jack, Chair 1, joined by Kaizo in the Chair 2, and Printers still on that production, getting all the best shots for y'all at home. So I hope you gods, goddesses, and every deity across the spectrum are enjoying the action that we're seeing here today. Now, Kaizo, looking back at the heroes that, or sorry, the gods that we saw utilized during the previous round, do you think we're going to be seeing any of those changing up as we start going into this pick ban phase?
Well, I think that the Babylonians already took that answer away
Yep,
from me.
there-
That Morgan
yeah,
and
there
that
it
Mercury
is.
absolutely needed to go. They did not have an answer for just Rosie going into stealth and just killing one of them instantly. I mean, you can ward for it, you can listen for it, but at the end of the day, if you're not finding her before she kills you, you have no counterplay. So I think that it's smart that the Babylonians decide to take those two away. I mean, Mercury functions basically the same way with how far away he kills you from, so I think that it's definitely smart that they went ahead and took those off the board.
That's true. We also got the Jingwei taken off the board for the side of the King Kais. So it's going to be intriguing to see what these two teams decide to fill those spaces with. Of course, with over 100+ gods, there's no there's no lack of choice in this game, as you're seeing the picks already coming in. King Kai's locking in the Kumbhakarna and the Chernabog early. Do you think we might be seeing a hunter pick also coming in for the Babylonians, or do you think they might save that for the second half?
I think that it might be a little bit smarter to draft frontline here. I'm actually throwing a couple of question marks at this Kali, not because I think that Kali's a bad pick. I think Kali's actually very strong right now, but I think that Kumba is absolutely the best response to Kali for my money. I think that I'm basically alone in that category because not a lot of people are looking to the Kumba, but I think that his peel on specifically an auto attack jungler is second to none, and leaving this Chernabog open after the after the performance that Plush Rush had on it in game number 1, I think might be a little bit of a sketchy idea, but they do end up going for this Mulan followed by the AMC, which can flex mid or ADC. We'll see where they end up putting it at, but I think that it's actually rounding out for a pretty balanced composition here. A lot of these teams, especially in the lower divisions, like to stack all of their pressure in either the early game or the late game, but I think that the Babylonians here have drafted a composition, at least in their top 3, that does both of them at least fairly well.
I can definitely concur with you there. We also got the Daji being the last to lock in before we go back to the ban round for the King Kais. And of course, as well as much as Daji can control the field with their ultimate, it is going to be intriguing how the Babylonians combat this. I mean, the King Kais are essentially building up quite a bit of damage, quite a bit of CC with the picks that they already have on the table. Do you see any bans that might keep the Babylonians from trying to mitigate all that control?
Well, we've seen the Hell and the Geb banned away from King Kai's, and then across the way, Tiamat. I was actually surprised to see. I thought that after the performance that that Alfie had on the Cthulhu, that we might be seeing a ban away from that. But apparently, without the Morrigan to give it a little bit of extra oomph and give it that double Cthulhu, they're not particularly afraid of it. That does leave open this Yu Wong, who I was about to mention. I feel could have gone a little higher in the priority list here. I mean, I don't think that Mulan isn't necessarily going to be contested during the second phase of bans if you don't pick that there. So giving that over to Kinkai's is a little bit scary for me. So we'll have to see what the Babylonians have in store to answer back onto this, as they currently seem to be considering this Artemis pick.
Yeah, having Artemis on the table, going for possibly a double hunter. I mean, I don't know a lot about Smite, but I do know a bit about Overwatch. And typically, when you try to go for something that is definitely a lot more distance based, which you can get a lot in with these hunters, could lock in some very interesting compositions that won't necessarily force them to play up close and personal with the King Kais. But it looks like they will go ahead and indeed lock in that Sobek and Soul. King Kais have one final pick on the table. Which direction do you think they're going to be going in, Kaiser?
Well, they've obviously got to grab their solo laner here. Cthulhu is still available if they want to try that. I feel like that is probably suicide if you pick that into Kali AMC's soul, because Cthulhu typically attributed with dealing very poorly with these auto attack based teams, just because you got your Kinsai, you've got that consistent damage from soul coming out. I think that you probably want to go with something a little bit more CC heavy. You've got Kumba to force these beads, but otherwise you don't really have a way to get beads for Daji to actually be pulling people. So at that point, she's more of a facilitator than a carry for you. Tsukiyomi's going to lend them a bit of damage, and they do go ahead and lock that in. He notably has a very strong disarm into the stun on that Kusarigama, but I'm not totally sold on it, just because, like I said, Kinkai's lacking in the CC department. You are basically saying, Kumbhakarna, you are our sole CC, and if you don't do it, then nobody's going to do it.
That is absolutely true. And looking at how these teams are squaring up against one another as we prepare to head into this matchup, uh, where's your favor at in the early game? Which team do you see kind of taking an advantage early if they can find it based on these picks?
Well, we should see Tsukiyomi battling pretty evenly with Mulan, and
Okay.
because of that, you have to look toward the junglers, right? So Daji,
Mhm.
not the best early game, but Kali somehow even worse early game. So you'd have to attribute the early game to this Kinkai's composition. They're going to
Okay.
probably look to pressure around these blue buffs. You typically want to play very aggressively with these assassin solos. You don't really want to just put them in the pressure cooker like you do something like a Cthulhu that they had last game that can get that innate guardian scaling. But once late game ticks around, man, this Babylonians composition, if they are not too far behind, if they're sticking within a couple thousand gold by the time team fight phase rolls around, they are really set up pretty well to have a very effective composition for just slaughtering these Kinkais whenever they walk near them.
Well, we will have to see if that is indeed the case. While we're waiting to get into the match, we do want to remind you that here at Galeria Smite League, Galeria Smite League, we want to make sure that you are enjoying yourselves here and always tuning in to the amazing action that's going down. So why don't you go ahead, hit that heart, punch that bell, so you get notified every time that they come online with this amazing content. Also, if you can, throw a subscription their way, help them out a little bit. $4.99 for Twitch Prime or Amazon Prime sub gives a little bit back to the community that's working so hard for y'all. Now, continuing to look at these picks and thinking about in comparison to where we saw them before Kaizo, it seems interesting that we're not seeing a lot of duplicate picks from before. The only
Right.
thing that really seemed to be locked in from the previous matchup was the Chernobog. Do
Yep.
you think that this massive change in composition is really going to be benefiting the Babylonians?
I wouldn't say benefiting, but I would definitely say it's going to have a significant impact on the way that the game is played out. Specifically, I'm looking at Rosie on this very campy kind of backliner mage in the Yu Wong. He's not going to be the kind of god that wants to get in and get aggressive. He's going to sit back. And I mean, after you just played an entire game as Morrigan, just chasing people around the map invisible and killing them instantly, it's a
Hmm.
bit of a momentum swing, to say the least. So shifting that playstyle, being a little bit more cautious, a little bit more calculated. We're going to have to see how Rose is capable of adapting to that. Meanwhile, across the way, the Babylonians are clearly focusing around this AMC in the mid lane, where you got the Soul that's going to be in the pressure cooker. She's going to get online eventually, but this AMC is really the driving force of this mid 3v3 composition.
I'm also finding it interesting in that solo lane. We're seeing the Sobek
Yeah,
taking that on.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
looking at that, and good eye on that one, Jack, because that is unconventional as it gets to draft the Sobek and then say, you know what, we'll see you later. We'll see you in 20 to 25 minutes. We'll just take freeze on the Mulan for the time being. And I mean, Mulan does definitely have a lot of pressure in these early stages, and they could actually
Mhm.
look to get aggressive here. I'm not sure if they know that the oracles are being done, but gonna look to pick up this farm instead. But they do have that option to just say, wait, they're farming, stop them, and just immediately send freeze out on the Mulan. They actually, in that way, found a little bit more early pressure than I initially would have anticipated just by
Mhm.
shifting those picks around. You have to wonder if Kinkais were aware of the positioning that these gods were going to be taking.
That is true. You see Alyssa falling a little bit low, but that aggression is not going to be coming in from the King Kais to try to follow up on that, or maybe it will be, but thankfully, Alyssa has all the tools in
Uh
her
oh.
belt to be able to keep her safe. But there it comes. Merton looking for that pick onto Alyssa, but thankfully,
Done.
all the abilities in her favor, able to get her out of harm's way. We'll see things kind of stalling out here at the 2 minute mark. Not seeing really much of a difference across the board. Everything looking pretty even keel. Only thing really to note, the levels of the Kumbhakarna and the Chernabog just now coming online to that level 3 could make a difference later on.
And Invade comes out from Kinkai's on that red buff. They're going to circle around here and try to gank the Babylonians. Ping should be coming out pretty soon. They have to know this is happening.
Oh, well, we see the stuns coming in, trying to see if they can get that pick onto freeze, and like a descending flock of crows onto a corpse, the first life is taken here on the battlefield, putting that first point on the board for King Kais.
And I have to ask the question, and we have no way of knowing the answer. Were the Babylonians aware that the mid jungle were rotating? We saw Alyssa trailing a little bit behind them. I'm not sure if she would have been within render distance to know that was taking place, but I feel like as soon as you get to that red buff and see that that's down, you need to be immediately informing Freeze and Marsh that something is amiss and you might want to get out. But instead, they were just way too far up the duo lane with those members missing and got punished for it in short order. I mean, it's great that Marsh lived, but you want to be aggressive on this Mulan. He's got a war flag, for God's sake. The guy wants to fight. You can't be getting picked off and getting put behind when you're trying to play aggressive.
Well, the great thing about it is it's still pretty early game. A single pick is not necessarily going to change the complete tide of this game.
True.
Thus far, as we're continuing to see this Sobek battle in the solo lane, surprisingly still doing well at being able to hold off the King Kais for now.
Alyssa going to get jumped on, will stun out Morton, goes up into the Pala. That will grab Alyssa and force out the beads that, by God, what is Yu Wong's ultimate called? Doesn't matter, it missed anyway, and she is going to have to head for the hills. She's got Freeze behind him, blinks in, that will miss, and now Freeze
Woo!
caught in no man's land.
Rosie just barely able to get away as well. Thankfully, going to be saved by her teammates as we continue to see kind of a little bit of a poke battle now going on here in the mid lane. Freeze looking to see if they can find some advantage, but will be unsuccessful. It looks like everyone will pull back for the moment, start collecting those buffs once again as they prepare for the next attack. As we're looking at things starting to come online with the Gold Fury in now at this
Uh,
5 minute mark. Ooh, interesting. Seeing the Soul Ultimate coming down. A bunch of. Whoa!
okay.
East! Hook, line, and sinker with the belly bump. Able to go ahead and secure that second elimination. We are just all over the place on this board. Honestly, I'm having a hard time predicting where the action's going to be next.
and I'm having a hard time keeping up with it even when I see it. I mean, Freeze looked like he should have been fine on the Mulan the last time we checked in with him. Apparently, East managed to get to him in a way that he wasn't anticipating and somehow couldn't react to. He still has a CC Immune ultimate available to him that he did not use and still died. So that
Mm,
means something had to have surprised him in order for him to go down there. Not sure what that might have been, but no surprises in the duo lane when Marsh is playing as aggressive as possible on Plush Rush. That Supernova was ambitious, to say the least, but I mean, with all the focus on the mid 3v3 so far, you can play a little bit more aggressive with those cooldowns, knowing that you don't really need it for the safety. That really should be what Alyssa's worried about right now. She's got about 50 more seconds on the beads. Morton's going to need to look for a play here.
all right. Well, let's see what they can make happen. We see the chains coming in for the Daji as they try to pull some under tower and will be unsuccessful in doing so. Looks like they'll go ahead and pull back to the safety of their own tower for the moment. As we see continuing a little bit of farming on either side, not really a whole lot going on around the board. Things looking pretty even keel, except for right now, this Mulan Freeze is not getting the value
Hmm.
that they were hoping for. And, thankfully they're staying real. Well, actually, they're pretty far behind based on
Yep.
where we're seeing Sue at.
Yeah, if you take a look at the net worth charts, about 400 gold down on the opposing support in East. And that happens when you go this war flag. You quite literally need to fight in order to farm when you get this war flag. It procs off of how many times you hit an enemy once you get the stacks built up, as opposed to something like a Sentinel's Boon where you just kind of hang out and just have a drink and then farm just kind of finds its way to you. She's going to
Okay.
have to get a little bit more aggressive here, but every time she's tried, I mean, 0-2 so far, the only two deaths on the map, getting immediately punished for doing so. At which point you have to wonder, where are you looking in order to find some kind of advantage? Because you can get the Kali to the late game, but Morton's not going to make that easy for you.
That's true. As we go ahead and see the ultimate coming in, allowing Roxy to be able to get out of harm's way. That's going to be a very quick deceleration of the action there. As we're approaching that 10-minute mark, you got to wonder, what is the strategy here? Actually, it looks like they're going to run on in, take advantage of the fact that Rosie has
Oh
no
no.
way to escape. Morton with the follow up, able to get that trade in, and now Freeze once again on this Mulan is just outmatched, outnumbered right now. Marsh getting there just too
Mm.
little, too late, and Morton is going to be able to get away in the final moments with those early picks. King Kai's now taking a little bit of a lead, but really it's in the leveling and XP department that things are really starting to swing in their favor.
Yeah, they've lost Alfie on that play as well. Off camera, he did end up dying to a gank in the solo lane, so they did at least answer something back for the side of the Babylonians, but I feel like they might have forced that just a little bit too hard onto Rosie. I mean, it is hard in all truthness, or in all truth, to force a Yu Wong to use his defensive cooldowns and then still find a way to kill them. I understand that, but
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that you can just start sacrificing lives to dive him. Because as
Yep.
soon as Freeze blinks in and gets that ult, immediately Morton was on top of Taka, and he has no way to combat her at this point. He later in the game has a small but real chance to turn around the damage, but at least for the time being, Daji will kill him before he can kill her. So leaving the mid laner as a sitting duck to get a suicide kill is sketchy at best, but like I said, that kill back onto the Tsukiyomi at least makes it feel a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely got to be watching out for, and especially the way that they're playing it, because initially we thought that we were going to be seeing the Mulan in the solo lane against
Right.
Sukiyami, and so
Oh,
with
Taka.
the way they're paired up, it's not looking good. Taka will end up finding themselves defeated in this 3v2. Freeze just not able to do much to be able to fight back against the absolute force that is the King Kais right now.
Yeah, and that's the duality of AMC, where you sting somebody and they just die, versus you get picked out and you don't have vision and you are the one that dies immediately with no counterplay. Actually, a little bit of a scrap here in the mid lane over what seems to be nothing. Morton is aware that Alyssa's low HP here, maybe going to try to catch her rotating to back camps, but all for nothing, at least so far. 4 members strong. Oh, dear Lord, please don't tell me they want Taka. Oh, please, dear Lord, please, that's gonna be a dead AMC. Yeah, that's not happening. That is mean,
Wow.
is what they just did. That is cyberbullying, is what they just did to Taka.
Well, it looks like they might be able to get some payback here. East essentially left on their own as they were pulled back under tower. They're going to use every ability they can to try to get away, but
What?
Alyssa not going to be allowing that whatsoever. They're trying to retreat back to the
Houston?
safety of their team, and Rosie is just able to get within range, but the Kumba's down on the field. Alyssa just having to use everything in their arsenal to be able to get away, including their ultimate, and it looks like East will be able to get off of the ground. No sweet night for that sweet prince. As we see both teams pulling back, the over aggression almost tying things up there in the final moments.
Wild to me that Kumbhakarna, that East managed to live through that extended engagement. I mean, he got dropped down into the passive. I saw the Chernobog ult coming in. I was like, oh, he's surely dead here. But apparently the peel was just good enough from Rosie and the rest of the gang. But the real tale of that story for me is the fact that not only does Plush Rush solo Marsh, no help needed, he still has enough HP in order to ult into that fight and impact it in a meaningful way. If you're going to die in a solo kill, which should never happen, you have to at least put enough scratches on the enemy that they can't rotate and impact a different fight entirely. I mean, Marsh,
Mhm.
it incredibly is not far behind his lane opponent in Plush Rush, only sitting about 100 gold down despite that engagement. But you got to start cleaning some of this up because this is starting to turn into an arena game.
Yeah, things are definitely not looking too good for the Babylonians, and they got to start finding a way to fight back against this aggression, whether it be starting to lock in some
Oh,
additional boons or what. Taka falling incredibly low, but thankfully the safety of the tower will be able to keep them in this fight for now, retreating back to the safety of spawn as they go ahead and clean up the minions trying to take the tower down. We see King Kai's eyeing that gold fury, and I think it's only a matter of time right now, Kaizo, before that gold ends up being in their coffers.
with a gank here onto Plush Rush. Does know that she's there, so will get the ult off. Where's he
Woof.
gonna go? Dives into the mid lane, right into the teeth of Freeze, and he's gonna go into the ult, trying to lock down Plush Rush for a little bit longer, but now suddenly Freeze is the one surrounding
What
it. He's gonna
is
have to
this?
fight his way back out of this one, but with no help coming, Rosie will just take him down.
I'm just having a really hard time understanding this, Kaizo. Many times, it seems like the Babylonians have a moment where one individual member is on their own, and they are caught out immediately by the King Kais. And
No.
East finally going down with the investment of the Supernova there from Marsh. But that even trade isn't nearly enough to make up for the difference that we're seeing in these two teams. But it might be
Babylonians here.
the Gold
Yeah.
Fury that definitely could make up for a little bit that we've seen thus far. Plush Rush and Roxy, they're on the flank as we see King Kai's taking the final blow,
Oh
stealing the
no.
Gold Fury in the final moments, and there comes Plush Rush adding to the kill feed, grabbing a little double kill on the backs of the Babylonians, put all of their work into trying to put to sleep that Gold Fury, and now have
Oh,
nothing to show for it.
disaster, man. That could not go worse for the Babylonians. And for the record, I am a huge proponent of, if you're down a couple thousand gold and you're having a hard time finding your way back into the game, you take whatever opportunities in front of you. I do not
Mhm.
at all hate them trying to pull that Gold Fury. They even had Marsh on the secure with the Supernova, just a little bit mistimed. Maybe you communicate that a little bit better. Maybe the zone needs to be a little bit better. Something needs to click there, but that is the right idea, just the wrong execution. But
Mhm.
despite that fact, they're still a couple thousand gold down now, and Alfie actually going to, one would assume, die here. No sustain for the Tsukiyomi, so after all those
Whoa!
dashes, should be going down, but sneaks his way away for the time being.
Ooh.
Alyssa will fare quite the same, but they want to turn it around on Morton.
I mean, Morton currently is alone on the field, and that Daji only has so many abilities to be
Aw.
able to get out. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to end up being the case, and especially when you see a Rosie rather, on that flank, it was definitely not going to be a good situation for the King Kais. As we see the timer continuing to tick up at the 15-minute mark, we got to start looking at that fire giant, that
Mhm.
powerful boon that really can set in motion kind of a sweep. And right now, the King Kais have control of the field, have control
Oh
of
yeah.
this XP difference and gold difference. I mean, what is the play here from the Babylonians to try to catch up and be ready for when they strike at that fire giant?
That's a good question, and I phrase that way because I'm not entirely sure. We're at the point where they could probably just look to straight pull it, but with the way that they've been so successful with forcing these beads off of Taka, forcing the beads off of Alyssa, and then capitalizing with these Daji ults, I mean, I was worried that they wouldn't have enough CC to force out the beads consistently, but they are just constantly getting these relics off of these hyper carries. So I would
Hmm.
say you have to start looking to continue doing some of that. They were very good about it in the 5 to 10 minute zone, but kind of fell off in the last 5 or so minutes. Just go back to that gameplay that was working well for you in the past and then execute off of those cooldowns being down. Because Taka already died 4 times this game, is not going to be looking to step up without the beads up.
That is true. So we see the Pyromancer going down quickly to the
Oh, trust?
Babylonians. Plush Rush diving in as the
Okay.
Chernobog, seeing if they could get an opportunity pick. But I mean, no one was anywhere close to being so low that they
Oh,
could
Taka.
finalize on that. And right now, Taka on their own is just getting bum rushed in mid. You have to wonder where the rest of the team is at this point, and it looks like
Wow.
Plush Rush will not have used their ultimate in vain, as another life is taken from the side of the Babylonians.
And I was gonna say Tsukiyomi shouldn't get the kill because Kaliot should let her live a little bit longer, but will actually hold on to that cooldown
Rude.
perhaps for the better. Meanwhile, we see BM in the mid lane, solo laners
Yep.
brawling in the right lane, and there is a gank going on left lane. Not that you'd know about it, because health bars are still mostly full HP. Plush Rush walking in a straight line at the lane opponent will force out that Supernova ultimate, but East is just behind her in the tier 1 tower, and with 3 people there, that is more than enough to take down this soul. Kinkais are splitting the map and winning on all 3 sides of it.
Yeah, it is definitely not looking to be in a good position for the Babylonians, as we now start seeing more significant lead growing very slowly. So you really got to be paying attention. But this 5K gold lead that the King Kais currently have on the field, as we're reaching this 20-minute mark, could mean the difference of when that steamroll truly begins. We do see final items being locked in, not necessarily to that third level just yet, but at very least being put on the table to be locked in. As we see a little bit of poke damage around the Oni Fury here, it doesn't look like we're going to see any full movement just yet from either side.
Oh, it's coming though. They are very aware that Taka's beads are still down. That's why Kumbhakarna's in here trying to get the damage, trying to get the CC, but will be forced out. Yu Wong in the ultimate, trying to get this Sobek. Tsukiyomi will chase over the top. Does he have the damage? Not quite. Sobek living at 1 HP. Marsh on the backline. In that Disapparate, trying to live through this dive. It is chaos. It is pandemonium as Marsh falls. One more. Alyssa in the front line. Taka in the front line. Everyone from the side of the Babylonians all go down in short order. Freeze will be soon to follow, and the Kinkais just continue to look dominant.
That is true. It looks like they will be able to take one in their right if Alfie cannot get away. Actually, it looks like they may be able to. Oh, the double blink coming
The Dragon Ball Z
in.
fight.
Woo, man. Alfie is doing everything they can to get to their side of the field and keep themselves safe. You see now the rotation coming in from 12 Hunter on this Sobek to see if they can catch up, but took a wrong turn at Albuquerque right there. Is going to have to retreat back to the safety of the team, just barely getting away. What a beautiful back and forth right there. Very much, and anything you can do, I can do. Well, I can do it as well because I picked the same items, it seems. Now, as we see the team starting to clean things up and preparing for that final button press, that fire giant looking very, very appetizing for the side of the King Kais.
Yeah, Kinkais are going to make their way there immediately. It is important to note that now beads are available for just about everyone save for Hunter on the side of the
Mhm.
Babylonians. So they're going to have to find a little miniature engagement, maybe try to force them off of Alyssa here. Morton goes up into the powwow, will not find anyone, looks around to see if anybody's missing, but unfortunately nothing going to be exchanged for that Daji ult. So we should see a
Mhm.
little bit of a lull here unless the Babylonians step too far forward. It should be just waiting out that Daji
Ooh.
ult cooldown.
And we see the pings aggressively coming in. They know that the King Kais are looking for that fire giant pick. And right now, Hunter it was alone for a moment, and that could be all the difference needed as we see them now rotating around this fire giant, dueling it out to see who indeed will be the team that takes that giant down. Right now, the honor seems to be going in the way of the King Kais, but they're not going to leave it up to chance that they're going to see a full pullback from the Babylonians. They know that they have to at least get an elimination, maybe two, to keep them from taking that very powerful buff.
Yeah, Kinkai's with very good pit control here. You can see a couple of wards down on the map. We're assuming those are all going to be red team wards based on where they're positioned. They are very aware of where the Babylonians are positioned and very happy to take advantage of some caught out positioning, like maybe Hunter here, but East actually going to be putting himself in no man's land. Gets the beads off of Mulan, and that is not nothing, and he's just by himself. He's a menace.
Yeah, well, when you're the big guy, you can pretty much go wherever you want to because you boop everybody out of the way. And there comes in the Daji ultimate, chaining everyone in, and there is the pick opening they needed. But the trade comes in from Taka as we see, I believe their Stinger Ultimate utilized to be able to solidify that elimination. Morton incredibly low at the moment. It doesn't look like we're going to be seeing any fights towards that fire giant anytime soon, or I maybe a little bit more protection around the fire giant to sort of protect the president, so to speak, to keep the Babylonians at bay.
Yeah, Babylonians seem to know that Morton is not around, so they're going to push out and get some pit control back, perhaps, or at least farm out just a tiny bit. Marsh trying to hunt down this last ring in this build. I would assume maybe a Nimble Rod of Tahuti, something along those lines next. And
Mhm.
we are getting to the point where these builds are capping off. We've got full crit Chernobog 6-0-7, just by the way, in case you haven't been keeping up. But it's all actually Yu Wong that's going to be at the top of the damage charts. And with this Bumba's hammer, I mean, if you thought that they were playing around the Daji ult before, with this Bumba's hammer to reduce and at times reset these cooldowns, they are going to be abusing these beads timers for the Babylonians for the rest of the set. They clearly knew that was the game plan, and I like that they're sticking to it.
And thankfully, now that we're a little bit more in the late game, Freeze is not able to get bullied nearly as much despite being down over 4 levels against Alfie right now. And there it is, the poke battle starting with the Fire Giant as Hunter is looking for that opportunity to strike. A little bit of payback
Rosie's
for
low.
that Gold Fury action. The pings coming in as we see now under half health. Somebody's got to be able to find that finalization, and it doesn't look like they're even going to go for the Fire Giant. They're going to go for the picks on the King Kai's first, but it looks like it's Plush Rush able to put that first one on the board. March trading it up with Rosie. So now in this 4v4, the focus has to be on East. Incredibly low, but kind of out of sight at the moment. Now as he's stunned out, Hunter looking for that opportunity. Morton coming in with the claws. Are going to be able to dig out another elimination. But a lot of tanky folks still remaining on the field, including Taka, who can be dealing a heck of a ton of damage. Morton on a bad rotation, thought they could take advantage of that, but will be unsuccessful. Plush
Oh,
Rush
no.
now putting to work all the damage that they had in the pocket. Will grab the D aside and triple kill at the end of a very long engagement.
And apparently, Plush Rush heard me talking bad about his damage numbers because he has securely fastened himself at the top of those charts. I apologize, good sir. I didn't mean to insinuate that you weren't dealing damage. I just thought perhaps Rosie was making more impact. But it's hard to argue with the crit Chernobog free casting an entire fight, getting somehow behind Taka without him knowing about it, and just critting him in the back of the skull that entire time. It was a very interesting fight because Alyssa got a good engage onto the backline of the Kinkais, but even with that powwow being expended, they didn't have a good answer. And
Oh
now Alyssa
no.
gets the ult force that will be chased by this Chernobog. You have to assume that Alfie's going to have the damage on his own.
Yeah, Alfie able to secure the elimination onto Alyssa. I mean, she was the only one that could come close to even trying to get that final blow, a last ditch effort, if you will, to try to get the Fire Giant in their favor. And now the bum rush is starting to begin. Vroom, vroom, as the bulldozer starts coming out for the King Kais. That's going to be a middle tower down as they just start rushing their way all the way down mid, as the kids say. But it looks like they're going to stall out for a little bit with a couple towers still remaining. They have a little bit more cleanup to do before these Phoenixes become an issue.
Oh, but they know that they've still got Alyssa down, so they're going to engage now. There's the ults. Everybody's sending them off. Daji grabs one. Will she pull Taka? Taka gets pulled in, pushed back by the Yu Wong ult, but immediately Plush Rush finally taken down.
It looks like we will see a flip coming in from Hunter, bringing East at least to the ground, but they got to finalize that elimination, get all those bubbles down, and the bubble is popped, but Hunter pays for it against Rosie as well. The numbers not looking really good, almost over a 10K lead for the side of the King Kais, and very little options remaining on the table for the Babylonians to bring this back.
Yeah, but they did manage to defend that Phoenix on a very important Fire Giant siege. They knocked FG off of all members but the solo and the mid, which is rather important in a game state like this where you're pretty much clinging to all of your structures for dear life. I think that it was honestly just a little bit of an over investment from Morton on this dive, maybe underestimating the disruption that Freeze was going to be able to have on the backline. They did
Oh
eventually
no.
kill off Taka, but
Oh.
I should maybe be watching this Primal Fury. This is a little closer than it
Oh.
really should have been.
Woo.
But getting
I
back to
was
that
so
fight,
worried.
Morton clearly overestimated the damage output that Rosie would have from a distance while being harassed by Freeze. I think that if they get a little bit more coordination, that pick goes down much more simple on Taka. They have to find a way to deal with this root knock-up that Freeze is putting on the back line and find a way to just kill off Taka cleanly. That's been their game plan this entire time so far, and even with Alyssa down, they couldn't really capitalize. So maybe that just doesn't work on Siege. Maybe they need to find something else. We're going to have to find out what their game plan is going into this next attempt.
All right. Well, we do see a trebuchet coming in through the solo lane for the King Kais, and while it does that, the rest of the team is going to opt for bum rushing the duo lane, immediately taking down tower as they start making their way into the Phoenix. The Babylonians doing everything they can to try to fight back against this, and Daji bringing the Tower of Chains up, looking to see who they can lock
Good
down.
ult.
And will be unsuccessful in doing so. Taka able to find that pick onto Plush Rush, shut that sucker down, and now things are looking a little bit better into the Babylonians' favor. 1-1 fight is not going to turn everything around for them, but these picks might be able to even up the battlefield.
I thought that fight was over. Once Kumba got that blink engage onto two backliners for the side of the Babylonians, I thought immediately that was a one fight for the Kinkais. But again, if they don't kill Taka on the front end, he is putting out so much relevant damage, and just staying alive through their engage seems to be all he needs to do.
That's true, and I'm finding it a little interesting that we're seeing the Babylonians so close up to this Phoenix when there's still so many other objectives here on the field, especially the Fire Giant getting ready to respawn in the next 30 seconds could be enough of a boon for them to at least be able to fight back against the aggression of these Kinkais.
They will answer back one of these towers, maybe two. I can't remember if the dual lane was up or not, but they are going to have to head for the hills here pretty soon because all of the Kinkais are back up, and FG due to spawn in 10 seconds. This is actually very bad back timing for the Babylonians. They just surrender all pit control to the Kinkais, and they are hungry for this EFG.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they're going to give that up. One would have thought that they would have actually pulled back and taken the Fire Giant before then, and there it is, spawned up and ready to take down. Hunter going to be doing everything they can to try to get close. The Fire Giant at half health right now. Hunter looking for that final hit onto the Fire Giant to bring it into the Babylonians' favor, but no! They get booped up into the air and kept right away. And now with those boons safely in the hands of the King Kais, it is elimination central as they start locking down those finalizations. Marsh doing everything they can to try to run away, but it is just not going to be enough. This is Decimation Alley right now, a deicide on the horizon for the King Kais.
And it's going to be Alyssa versus the entirety of the Kinkais getting, actually, I'd say chased around by, but chasing around a Kumbhakarna for the time being seems to have realized that the rest of the game is finishing while she's fighting a Kumba. But what a great realization from the Kinkais that they just need to pull that as soon as it spawns. It was no secret that the Babylonians all needed to reset, so they just get in there, jam everything they have into the Fire Giant, and just an overextension from the Babylonians who desperately wanted to defend FG but just didn't have the manpower available.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate that that ended up being the case because things were looking to be going back in their favor. But as I've mentioned off stream, learning to cast this game, there's just so much information available to you, especially even as a player, that you have to be paying attention to. And that's that one time bank that they were not really keeping tabs on. And by the time they noticed that was the case, it was just too late. So GG's to the King Kais as we go ahead and wrap up our match for tonight. I'm going to invite King Scuba back into the box, back to the throne, to go ahead and give us the breakdown and tell us how bad we did.
Oh, this gonna be good. This gonna be good. First off, I'll go ahead. Indeed. Let me drop this link real quick for everybody who's watching still. So for those of you who didn't catch the first bit, we're going to be doing a little bit of a coaching session here. Apparently I'm quiet. I have no idea. I'm loud now. Okay, I guess it was on your end. I blame you. Blame you for everything. Going back to it. Going back to it though. I have a link for you guys. This is a survey for the casters you saw tonight. If you fill out that link, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to give you a chance to win either the Summer Eclipse Morgan Le Fay skin or the Pride of Avalon Lancelot and God Unlock. That's for this week. I'll be drawing next week for these 3 games on Gloria, so you have 3 chances. Next week, when we go into the next episode, I'm going to be dropping the winners. I have 2 for tonight. And at the end of this whole shebang, when we finally have our actual winners, I'm going to draw one person from all these different surveys, and they're going to win $50 from me. But let's get down to the coaching. And do mind, I hardly know my rear end from a hole in the ground when it comes to this stuff, so I'm going to do my best. Let's go ahead and start with Sir Ionicus, Chair 1, Game 1. Are you here, buddy?
Yes, I am here.
It's like,
Good,
yeah,
good.
yeah, I am.
Minor little bit for you. I heard a throat clear on air. Just try to keep your mic muted for that kind of stuff when you're casting.
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable. At about 4 minutes and 10 seconds in, and by the way, please don't hate me. I've got a lot of things for you. Let's see. 4:10 in, Merc came in, he caused a beat, and then you just dropped the plot. You got to try continuing with your thoughts, even if it's somewhat nonsensical, at the very least. You know what I mean? I also noticed that you kind of overanalyzed things, at least in my opinion. Should have left that to chair 2
Mhm.
and more tried watching the board and trying to formulate different thoughts as it went on. And you also really didn't give chair 2 a lot of leading questions. You just decided to go and analyze, and this unfortunately made you drop the ball on when you should have been going by the play-by-play. And that was a recurring theme for you.
Is it cool if I jump in here, Scuba?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say something that I was chatting with Jack about just before the cast. As chair 1, because I that is where I got my start as well as doing chair 1. I liked to talk about the game anyway, and I found that the best way to do that is to come up with your own original thought and then just softball that same thought to your chair 2, because you're a team at the end of the day, and you want to make the chair 2 look good as well. So if you have something you want to talk about, just like give your chair 2 an indication of what you're thinking and then let them run away with it, because again, you're a team, and as long as that information gets across, it doesn't really matter who says it.
Yeah, there you go. That's very well put. It's like if you want something said and it's more analytical, you can always just say, "Hey, this is an interesting point. Let's ask a question to chair 2 to get that point on the board." Just like what he said. Going on. 8:10, you kind of did a little bit of a vocal dance with chair 2. As chair 1, chair 2 should know as soon as you open your yap for a fight, he's just quiet. Just hands down. So as soon as you see it, don't be afraid to just flat out just take the reins. It's like you own this, you're driving this car and you decide when it goes.
Right.
Let's see. 9 in, you did this one really well in my opinion. Rat did a surprise gank. I don't know if you remember that. He just dove into the mid tower, dropped
Mhm.
down, it came out of almost nowhere. Chair 2, Zats called that out. You let him. That's what should have happened. And you just went like, "Oh crap, what happened there? I didn't even notice what that, you know?" that was perfect on your call to not try stepping into there. I'm also going to say this, like we said last week, it is never a mistake unless you say it's a mistake. Never say sorry. Audience probably isn't noticing anyways.
Retweet.
So yeah, I noticed you apologize a few times, like, oh man, it's like I got to pay better attention. It's like, don't say that on air. Just be like, oh wow, that came out of nowhere. Just drop it. Go on. I will say though, you like I said, and it is fine to analyze, by the way, as chair one and kind of bounce ideas off chair two. But like I said, you kind of overanalyzed, and you did that to the detriment of being the chair one, like I was saying earlier, and it just ended up like you're 30 seconds into a fight, a 2v2, a 3v3, and all of a sudden, bam, you're still analyzing, and the commentary is just going on without you, or the fight's going on without you. So you got to learn when to drop a subject and just go switch straight into it. Let's
All right.
see. That is generally all I got. 24 minutes in, you had a great pickup from Chair Two's push. He gave you a good entry point, and you took it over seamlessly. Um, and this was in regards to one of the team fights that erupted, and you just picked it up and just went bam right on it, and you just went right after it. Energy level, though, I will say was pretty good overall. Obviously, you had a lot of disjointed thoughts, kind of, it felt like, during your casting. And that just resolves itself with time, to be flat honest. So keep it up. You're doing good.
All right.
I say that's all I got for you. Now on to Jack and Kaizo.
Thank you, Scuba Sensei.
Yeah, you're welcome. Like I said, I don't know my arse from a hole in the ground when it comes to this stuff, so I'm just telling you as I see it as a viewer. I'm gonna ask this. You guys had great synergy. I'm not gonna lie to you. You bounced it off each other very well. Um, the one thing I'm curious about, did you pre-plan that or not, where Kaizo just outright took over chair one?
No, that's been
No.
a little back and forth that we've had some issues with that Kaizo
Yeah.
knows he needs to work on.
Hmm.
I was gonna say it's kind of disjointing
Yeah.
for me as an audience. It does kind of cause whiplash for me personally.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, all of a sudden this is a completely different kind of casting. Um, and for some people it will make um Captain Jack just look really bad, and in some people it'll make Captain Jack look really good. So keeping that kind of steadiness where people have that good audio cue to know what's
Hmm.
going on, that might be better for the caster.
Yeah, something that I've been trying to work with Frog on is understanding at what opportunity I need to be dropping a fight if if I pick up a small bit of action and then it boils over into something else, when to continue that off and wait for a good stopping point, and when to just say this is getting out of hand, I need to give this over to the chair one. And I'm fairly confident in my chair one abilities, but that also doesn't mean that I should be hogging the mic the entire time, which I do feel like I definitely did there. So that's definitely my bad, and I apologize to Captain Jack for that. That's something that I definitely, like you said, need to keep working on.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, Captain Jack, as soon as you see a
Hmm.
fight erupt, that's like, if you think it's going to be longer than just a little, oh, pop, done, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to throw your weight around and just shut him up and just start talking
Hmm.
over him. He knows to
Yeah,
be
that
quiet.
that's going against the 4.5 years of casting and Overwatch and being told not to interrupt one another. So
Right.
that's gonna take a
This is
little
fight.
bit more. Yeah, yeah. You if you could see my camera, I would definitely have been like, okay, give it over. Come on, please, please, please.
Yeah,
And
no,
that
this
is
is
the
So
kind of thing that if we got more time to work together, I'm sure that we'd get better at, but it is
yeah.
definitely difficult to like really resonate with somebody when you're casting with them for the first, or in our case the second time. That's
Hmm.
generally something that you learn about one another over time. So yeah, that's just my bad. I shouldn't have done that.
That's all good. Like I said, I'm just giving my unbiased opinion. That's very biased.
Right, of
Um,
course.
Also, I'm gonna point this out. At the desk.
Hmm.
Um, I thought it took too long, but I have to rescind that statement. You know, you guys were talking about picks and bans, and Kali Kumba and Shern were already completely slotted, but
Hmm.
you did manage to go back to it. So overall, I felt the desk was kind of good. Just that very kind of minor nitpick from me.
Gotcha. Yeah, we
Um,
were told to kind of take everything in chunks when it came to the picks and bans, so
Mm.
I was trying to keep that as sectioned off as I could. That if we were focusing on the bans, even if there were a couple of picks coming in, that we would stick on that until we felt it good to move along. So it might have been a little slow, but again, it's just the practice and trying to get used to the rhythm.
yeah. Also, on to rhythm. On your voice control and your energy, particular Captain Jack.
Hmm.
Um, you were very low energy when you should have been way high energy. To be flat honest. I'm not sure if
Really?
this is just, yeah, like when the fire giant happened. I think that was at 2600. Um, 20 or sorry, not 2600. 26 minutes into the game, there was that fire giant. Someone came in, tried to steal it. You went
Hmm.
way high energy and you just dropped the energy the rest of the time. And there's this whole team fight going on all over the place. You should have been kind of more modulating it. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
I'll have to look back on that one then, because
Yeah.
I might have thought that the fight was over at that point, and that's why I brought it back down. So
Yeah,
I'll
that
have to
no,
look
no, it
back
was
on it.
definitely the good call to bring it back down, but within 10, 15 seconds, all of a sudden the fight erupted again. Your energy was just stayed at like a 3 instead of jumping back up to like a 7. The fire giant was
Okay.
like a 10, where it should have been. He was trying to steal it, trying to make this massive game-changing play, but then you
Hmm.
dropped it from 10 all the way down to 2 like you should have, but then
Oh,
you
I,
didn't.
I see what you're saying now. But I think I remember the time. Basically, when they were just chasing down all of the Babylonians at that point, once the fire giant was captured. The only reason I felt not bringing it back up was necessary at that point was just because with that fire giant buff, they were kind of outmatched, and it seemed like they were more running for their lives than really trying to fight back. So it didn't. It seemed like very much a one-sided fight that didn't need that extra energy. That was just my interpretation. But again, I'm new to
It's
casting this
valid.
game, so.
It's valid, but at the same time, that's like this is one of the major fights of the entire night. And again,
Hmm.
your energy shouldn't have got spiked all the way up to 10 while they're cleaning up, but it definitely should have gone from like a 2 to a 5 or a 6. You
Okay.
know, as you're pointing out all the plays and saying, "Oh, but he can't get away from this one," yada yada
Yep.
yada. You did have I did like your little I did like your little sayings like, "Oh, but he took a wrong turn at Albuquerque," like
I
when the
am a
Slovak was
very
chasing
punny
Tokiomi.
individual.
Those those are good
You're in
calls.
you're in good company with the Smite community on that.
Yeah. Um yeah, outside of that, um overall just and this is just me as a viewer, when you were talking you just kept this kind of long drawn out kind of more slower talking this whole time.
Mm,
Perfect in the downtimes. It's like I thought that was great, but even during the fights, it was just very. And it might just be your casting style.
mhm.
It didn't have the ramp up in the vocal tone and how many words per minute you're going.
Yep.
Um, could just be
Well.
because you're not 100% comfortable with Smite still, and
Mhm.
again, might just be your way of casting. I'm not positive, but
Yep.
normally normally like you heard Kaizo, all of a sudden he just popped off
Mhm.
during a fight, and he went from talking like us to going, "Oh, this is what's going on. Oh, look at the back line. Yada yada yada." And not everybody could do that. That's for certain. It might just be completely counter to your style. It's just the trends that we have in the Smite scene that you may or may not want to pick up on.
Yeah, no. Typically I would definitely be getting a lot faster, but Frog actually brought this up during the VOD review of our practice cast that with me not having the in-depth knowledge of Smite, that it's probably best that I keep to a slower pace, even if I'm still like modulating the energy and whatnot, because then at very least I'm not tripping over myself trying to
Mm.
get something out when I don't have that full range of knowledge, that depth to be able to cast quickly from.
that was going to be my next point. Like I said,
All
it
right.
just could just be flat out. It could.
Don't
You
get ahead of
sounded
him. Don't get
very.
ahead of him.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you
I'm not
sounded very
trying.
confident. You sounded very confident, but it could just be because you're not comfortable with this game yet. Completely understandable. Um, I'm not gonna lie. It kind of felt like I was watching a football cast with your play-by-plays. Not gonna lie.
Okay.
That's kind of what it felt like to me. And it
Football,
was
like American football or football
America
like
football.
okay.
America football, not everybody else's football.
Okay. I'm not a sports guy, so I'm not for certain how to interpret that. So you'll
Watch a
have to give me
football
a
game.
little bit more.
Just basically, it was you had a good tone that just was good for the most of the game. But
Okay,
as the fast play-by-plays happened, like I said, it just didn't pick up well enough.
gotcha. Okay.
Those are basically my main points there. Basically, um, Kaizo jumping in when he shouldn't have. Your energy kind of just was lacking when it should have been higher. Go a little bit quicker when you're more comfortable. Stuff like that.
Mhm. All right.
That's all I got. Frog, on the other hand, will tear you apart in 20 different ways.
Oh,
I'm
no.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, keep an eye out in the Sal Discord. He'll drop you a link.
Mhm.
The Sal Discord.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cute. That's cute. I like that.
And to those of you who are still listening, I did drop a link for a survey that you can fill out to rate the casters tonight. And again, you could get a code for that. We'll also be doing this tomorrow and Sunday as well. I've got a bunch more random casters to throw at you guys. But if you want to keep up with what's going on with this competition, So You Think You Can Cast, you can always come to the official Smite Discord at discord.gg/Smite game. Just go ahead and pop into the opt-in roles, grab amateur event, and I'll ping you when we go live. Outside of that, thank you printers for the great production, and thank you to the casters for being here and doing a damn fine job. That's all from me. Hope y'all had a great one.
GG's.